So in today's video, we're going to be talking about affordable lenses for filmmakers. And be sure to stay tuned to the end of this video because I'm going to be framing up and lighting a little interview style scene with this little lens. So yeah, the lens in question is the 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8. Now, just a full disclosure, no one sent me this lens. I bought it with my own money. This is going to be my own opinion about it. So this little lens only runs about 80 bucks on Amazon, and there are a lot of other lenses that are in the same kind of focal length and the same kind of price range. But the reason why I chose a 25mm is because on my Micro Four Thirds camera, it equates to about a 50mm equivalent field of view. Now 50mm is a great field of view to work with. There have been entire movies filmed on a 50mm lens, so a lot of people say that it's a pretty close representation of what the human eye sees. So 50mm is great. You're gonna have to do a little bit of calculation depending on what camera you're using. The cool thing about this little 7 Artisans 25mm is that it's not only available for Micro Four Thirds, you can get it for the Canon EOS M, Sony E mount, or the Fuji X mount, so that's pretty cool. So I've definitely watched a few videos about this little lens and there've been some mixed reviews. I kind of wanted to do my own sharpness test, and if we look here at this chart, you can see that if you zoom in and zoom out, and okay, the chart's on fire. Yeah, I'm not really into filming charts because I feel like nobody really does that. So instead, I went out with my little brother and I just filmed a scene that maybe you would film if you're using a lens like this, maybe like an interview style scene out in the woods. And if we take a look at the edge sharpness here, as you can see, it's really not that bad. This other shot, you can see if we zoom into the middle, the center sharpness is great. The edge sharpness, maybe not so much, but in real life situations, you really aren't going to be framing your subject like all the way out here. It's usually going to be either in the middle or you're going to be using the rule of thirds, which I feel like the sharpness within this area is actually pretty great. Now, I am using a Micro Four Thirds camera, so I'm actually using less of this lens than people who are using larger sensored cameras. So I'm using the best part of this lens, which is the middle of it. And if you have a camera with a bigger sensor, you're going to be using more of this lens, so the edge sharpness will differ from camera sensor to camera sensor. So yeah, like I said, this lens is only about 80 bucks on Amazon. If you go on eBay, you can find it even cheaper. And I feel like when it comes to lenses, I tell people that you really can't have it all. There's basically like 3 things that if you're on a budget, you're probably looking for. Affordability, looking for a fast lens, like a wide aperture lens most of the time because you want some better low light performance and a better background separation, and you want it to be sharp. And I typically tell people that you can only have 2 of those things. If you want a sharp and fast lens, it's probably not going to be that affordable. If you want an affordable fast lens, it's probably not going to be that sharp. And if you want an affordable sharp lens, it's probably not going to be that fast. So this little 7 Artisans probably falls into the fast and affordable category, whereas it's not the sharpest lens on the planet, but it's definitely pretty fast at f1.8, and it's definitely affordable. So one thing that's pretty obvious about this lens, hopefully, is that it is a fully manual lens, manual aperture, manual focus ring. There is no electronic connections on the mount. So you're gonna control the aperture and the focus yourself, which if you're really used to autofocus lenses, this might be a little bit of a tricky switch to have to control the focus yourself, but it's something that most professionals are pretty skilled at. And this lens actually has a pretty short focus throw, which you'll find on a lot of photography lenses. But I actually feel like if you're on a smaller camera and you're kind of running and gunning, having a shorter focus throw isn't the worst thing in the world. I wasn't having that much trouble, focusing and rack focusing with this focus ring. And unless I'm actually using a follow focus system, I actually prefer a shorter focus throw, because otherwise I have to crank my focus to get from, close focus to subjects that are further away. Yeah, you'll definitely have to work on your manual focus skills. If you have a camera that has focus peaking, I would definitely recommend using that. And if you're using something like my Panasonic GH3, most cameras have a punch-in zoom magnification feature. And that's what I use in my GH3 to check critical focus. So yeah, it's a fully manual lens, and that's one of the reasons why it's so cheap. So now let's take this lens and set up an interview style shot that maybe you might actually find yourself doing one day. And we'll just see how this lens performs in a real life situation. If we have it, framed up properly and lit properly, how good of an image can you get out of this little $80 7 Artisans lens? So yeah, as you can see, I think that the results are pretty pleasing. One thing that I will just address, just in case anyone was wondering, is I do have a screw-on metal lens hood with this lens. It comes like this, it doesn't come with this lens hood, so you'd have to buy this separately. I'll have a link to that in the description, but the one thing that I can fault this with is if you're shooting into direct sunlight, you are going to lose a lot of contrast. So that's just one downside of this lens. It's really hard to nitpick because this lens is so cheap, but that is something to note. So should a little lens like this find a place in your bag, I would definitely say that if you're first starting out and you're trying to build up your lens kit and maybe invest in something that's, you know, a little faster than a kit lens. And when I say fast, I mean has a wider aperture than a kit lens does. I'd say a little lens like the 7 Artisans is a really good one to look at. And there are a lot of different lenses that are in similar price brackets and similar focal lengths. Like the Meike lenses are pretty cheap. Camlan makes some pretty cheap lenses, but I think that the 7 Artisans is definitely a contender if you're looking for a, you know, really affordable little prime lens. And yeah, I'll have a couple different options in the description if you want to check them out. But yeah, I definitely would say that you can definitely get some pretty good results out of these cheaper lenses. And if you're trying to go for a more cinematic look where you have a little bit more background separation or bokeh, having a little lens like this is really handy. Anyways, thank you so much for stopping by. Again, there'll be links in the description below to the lens and a couple other lenses that you might want to check out. Thank you so much for watching. You can click right here for different playlists and videos. Until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye.